And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Northwest Connections with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome to West Coast Connections. I'm your host, Robert Pictou. Our show today comes to you from the traditional and unceded territory of the Tsimshian people. The Shubenacadie Indian Residential School was a component of the residential school system, where the Canadian government collaborated with various churches and religious groups to assimilate Indigenous children. This initiative was part of a larger strategy aimed at eradicating Indigenous cultures and identities, as well as silencing Indigenous histories. Established by the Canadian government and operated by the Catholic Church, it was part of the national colonial policy designed to assimilate students by banning their cultures and languages. On today's Northwest Connections, my dad, Bob Pictou, shares his residential school experience.
My name is Merkina Miskadishkaduk in a strong sky. Today I'm here, and to help me is the eagle feather and sweetgrass that helps you when you're reliving your past, and sometimes very hard for us. Most of the time it's very hard for us, and sometimes so hard that we can't carry on. I was born in Clyde River, and my grandmother took me at a tender age because of the breakup of the family. And my grandmother raised me until the age of 7. And from there, the Indian agent took me from my home and took me into the residential school. The only reason that he took me is I went across the road and I went to sleep. I fell asleep in my next door neighbor's house, and I wasn't. They thought I was lost or drowned. So when I got word to the RCMP, they say the best place for him, if we find him, is put him in residential school. Well, the Indian agent, Mr. Rice, and the RCMP, they came with their car, and they told my grandmother, we have to take your boy. And she put up a fight, but at those times, when you put up a fight with the Indian agent or the RCMP, they took away your, what we call today a ration. That was your food substance. When you was taken into that school, you was like a newcomer to a school. And all the rest of the kids there was 120 boys. And there were two sides to that school. There was a girls' side and there was a boys' side. And you was put on the boys' side, and then there was somebody assigned to you that was supposed to look after you. By looking after you, that means that they got to wash your whole body. At a period of time after you got into that school, it might be, say, maybe about an hour, you was taken into the bathroom, you was given a bath, you was stripped of your clothes that you cut from home. Those clothes were put into a bag. And after you was all dressed up in the clothes that were assigned to you in their, like a residential school clothes, then you was brought out, and your hair was just about almost all cleaned off, maybe about within, maybe say about a quarter of an inch. Because at that times, all the white man thought was all native people are lousy. And at that time they said, look at that lousy Indian. After your hair was all cut off, then there was a big, like a great big salt shaker, but it had bigger holes in the top, and that was filled with DDT. the most dangerous chemical there is taken off the market today. But that was put on your head to kill any headlights that was there. Then they rubbed it right into whatever scalp you had right there, and then you was dressed up as one of the people that was supposed to be housed in the Indian Residential School. I was taken in there about the dead of winter, and you had to wait, or you played around. But you're a complete stranger. You are a complete stranger. There's native people there. You don't know them. You just don't know nothing about them. You don't know them. You can't go over and greet them. You can't do nothing. And when I went in there, I couldn't even speak a word of English. And that was a drawback for me, because the kids that was in there weren't allowed to speak our native language. And this is the language that I was brought up with. And the old people said that if you're an Indian, why don't you be proud of it and speak your own language? And in there, they took that language away from you.
Northwest Connections will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Northwest Connections with your host, Robert Pictou.
Thank you for staying with us. In her book, Out of the Depths, author and residential school survivor Isabel Knockwood offers firsthand experiences of 42 survivors of the Shubenacadie Indian Residential School. In their own words, these former students remember the first day of residential schooling when they were outwardly transformed through haircuts and numbered striped uniforms. Let us return to the conversation as Bob recalls a typical day at Shubenacadie Indian Residential School.
Typical day on the Indian Residential School for the boys, I can't say for the girls, but for the boys, there was 5 flights of stairs, cement. And when you got ready to go to bed, you had to take your shoes and socks off downstairs where your play area was. You had to take them, and you was assigned a number. It started right from 1 right up to 120. And all your clothes that you had went in those little square boxes. And you had to take your shoes, your socks, your shirt, and you was down to your underwear and your short pants that came up to above your knees. You was taken and you was paraded all up those cement stairs in your bare feet, all the way up to what we used to call the dormitory. There was 2 dormitories. There was dormitory number 1 and dormitory number 2. Then you was assigned to a bed. And most you had wool blankets and you had sheets, but the sheets weren't soft. They were almost like sailcloth. They were really, really coarse, and you had a pillow. You had to say your prayer. You had to say your prayers. After you said your prayers, you had to get undressed. No underwear on, no pants on, and they gave you a Johnny shirt. You put that Johnny shirt on, and you went to bed. You get up in the morning, maybe about 6:30 every morning. You put on your underwear, you put on your pants, you got in line, and then when the sister was there, she was the head of the line, and she walked down those same flights of cement steps. You got downstairs, you changed into what you call your mass outfit. You're going to go to mass every morning. Then you stand in line for 15-20 minutes. You wash your face and hands, scrub your neck. There, you use a scrubbing brush that the old people used to use to scrub their floors with homemade lye soap. What they tried to do there at one time is they tried to get the scrubbing brush and scrubbed it brown off the native people. And it never dawned on them, this is our color. We're not white. We're not as white as they are. But everybody scrubbed their lip. Well, like the one that was in charge of me, he had to scrub my neck and under my arms with a scrubbing brush, and all the way down to your waist. Then you dried off with a towel. You got on your mask clothes, and then you stood in line. And even in church, they put boys on one side and girls on the other. The bigger boys on the head of the line, and the smaller boys on the back of the line. And you filed in the pews, and you had to go and get mass. After mass, you were all lined up again, and you were taken down 2 flights of stairs. You were put into your everyday clothes. You stood in line, and when you stood in line and you went in, and you stood there at the tables, and you said your grace.
Northwest Connections will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Northwest Connections with your host, Robert Pictou.
Welcome back to West Coast Connections. Childhood trauma encompasses significant negative experiences, including abuse, neglect, or exposure to violence, which can surpass a child's capacity to manage, resulting in enduring physical, emotional, and psychological consequences. These instances, frequently referred to as adverse childhood experiences, may disrupt brain development and heighten the likelihood of mental health issues, chronic illnesses, and various difficulties throughout life. Now let's shift the discussion as Bob opens up about his experiences.
Now, this must be said. For me, and for me, all the people that went through the same situation that I did, you wet your bed. You got to take your sheets, your Johnny shirt, and whatever's wet, and you got to take that downstairs, all the way downstairs, and then you got to put it in a bathtub that has water in it. And when it's all soaking, while you're already sitting in the mass, and the boys come down and get ready to have their breakfast, right? So when they're having their breakfast, you're not in that line. There might be 8 or 10 or 12 of you that wouldn't be in that line because you had wet the bed. So when you wet the bed, your sheets are still in the bathtub. You was to take those sheets out of the bathtub when everybody went in and was sitting down eating breakfast. And you can't wring them out. They're still dripping. And you had to take them and go out, walk in to the place where the girls were eating and the boys were eating. And you had to stand in that corridor where between that separates the boys and girls, and you have to have that on your head all the time that they were eating. And the girls were the same way. That I don't know, they try to disgrace you as little boys. That's in a strange place. Everything is dark. You don't know where the bathroom, you don't know where the toilets are. So what are you going to do? And at night, you could hear the children crying. The little ones, They just come in, and you hear them crying for their mother and their father, Or they're crying for their sisters. Maybe sometimes their sisters are there in school, and they're crying for their sister. And it's really hard. It was really, really hard. You never fully got over that. You never ever fully got over that. And after you took your wet linen, then you came out, and then you eat your ice cold porridge. Sometime it was like water, or sometime it was just like cement. And you sat down, you ate that, then you went out, And as you went out after breakfast, everybody had a chore. Everybody had something to do. You had something to do until such time that you was ready to go to school.
Yeah.
When you was ready to go to school and your chores were all done, then you came in and you got into your school clothes again. You got into your school clothes and you went to school. Everybody was dressed the same. There was really coarse wool pants. Your underwear were mostly, not like we are today, but your underwear were really almost like starch. Yeah, really, really coarse to anybody's skin. And I don't even know, the prisoner anyways today, they wouldn't have such underclothing as them. And you always had short pants on that came maybe 3 to 4 inches above your knee. And you had socks that came halfway up your knee. And you were not sneakers, but shoes at that time, leather shoes. You had, and at recess time, you came down, and in the winter time or in the cold weather, you had to have, they gave you a great big tablespoon of cod liver oil. And that never set with a lot of people because, you know, we never ate cod liver oil in our life, you know. But it was raw cod liver oil right out of the can. And you ate that, and then you went and played for 15 minutes and back in line again and go to school until dinner time. And dinner time you came down and you got all ready, you changed your clothes again, and you stood in line for about 10-15 minutes. And, you know, a line, 121 boys, and that's a long line. You waited there 10-15 minutes, boys on one side, girls on the other. You you had to pray for the food that was prepared before you. A big mug of milk. A boiled dinner consisted sometimes of turnips, carrots, and potatoes. And maybe a broth or something to go over it. But at times, those turnips, they were woody. You know how they get older in the spring, and they were woody. You still had to eat them. Everything that was onto your plate, you had to eat. Some of the potatoes were rotten. If they were cooked, you had to eat them.
Northwest Connections will be right back after these messages. And now, from the CFTK TV studios, this is Northwest Connections with your host, Robert Pictou.
In 1934, a federal inquiry was held into the flogging of 19 boys at Shubenacadie Indian Residential School with a vinegar-soaked whip. A doctor testified the flogging had left the boys with permanent scars, but the judge, Louis Arthur Audette, heading the inquiry, said the boys got what they deserved. In this final segment of West Coast Connections, Bob recalled what happened if you didn't finish your meal.
If a sister came down and seen there was something on your plate, she'd say you'd have to eat it. And if you never ate it, it was shoved down your throat. And your nose and your mouth be plugged until you did swallow it. I've seen many instances of that happening, and it happened to me. To say what had happened to me, at one time, they butchered their cows. Everything was done right at the farm, eh? So the cows was butchered there, but I don't think it was completely cleaned. The meat wasn't completely clean. So there was a piece of gut about the roundness of your thumb. And you're about maybe 10 or 12 years old. And it was left there. And I couldn't eat it. And sister come down and she said, "Eat that." And I said, "I can't eat it, that's guts." And she said, "I don't care." She said, "You eat it." And I said, "No." And I got a good slap side to the face. I remember that distinctly. I got a good slap side to the face. She would put that in the spoon, she shoved it down my mouth, in my mouth. She held my nose and she held my mouth. And I tried to swallow it, but when I did swallow it, I brought everything that was up in my stomach, I brought that up. And that landed in the plate, like the vomit. I was taking your hair is not long, but they grab you right by the back of the head or the hair, and they turn around and they rub your face all in it. Then you stay that way until you went out. After that, I was put into what the boys always called it the scourging room. It was a room, maybe say 8 by 10 feet long. All the hard lye soap was stored in there with only one light. And the switch was controlled on the outside. So I was put in there, locked in there, and the light was shut off for bringing up what was in my stomach. I was in there for a week. I was only taken out of there to go to school and would sleep. That was my punishment. So getting back to when we had our dinner, we all had our dinner. We went out and played for half an hour. We came back in, got ready for school, and went to school till 3:30. 3:30 we got out, came out and played till 5. From 5 o'clock, you had your supper, which consisted of a cold supper again, and from there on, from 5 o'clock you had till 6. Then 6 o'clock you had your same clothes on, but the older boys from grade 3 on up, they went up there and they called it what they call a study hour. So you went up in the classroom and you had to study for the next days, whatever they was going to do in school. Also in that school, any child that couldn't open their mouth, our people never had opened their mouth really wide. So if you went in that school and you were saying, if your sister asked you a question, the sisters wanted you to look on the ground when you were talking to them. The native people, the way that we were, we talked eye to eye. And then they can see if you're lying or not. The sister, you had to look down on the ground. You couldn't look at them in the eye. And for whatever purpose it was, they never liked us. They never liked the children.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of West Coast Connections. The greatest distance in the existence of man is not from here to there, but the connection from his mind and heart. If we can conquer that distance, we can soar like an eagle and realize our immensity within. I'm Robert Pictou.